Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the opening rally of Marxism Festival 2025. All right. Oh, okay, that's very bright. I can't see anyone anymore. Thank you. Okay, so we're in a bit of a different venue this year, but it's great to see everyone packed in to this nightclub tonight. And when I'm looking out, it almost feels like I'm at Glastonbury with all these flags and with this barrier. And I want to congratulate everyone that made the barrier tonight. Okay, well, I'm sorry that I'm not Bob Villain, but you got me instead. My name is Samira Ali. I'm a member of the Socialist Workers' Party, and I'm part of the team organising Marxism Festival this year. And I'm so delighted to host this opening rally to kick off what will be an amazing festival. Okay, well, I hope that everyone is having a good time tonight. Right, well, I'm not going to force everyone to say that they are, but I can say that I know that we are not having a worse time than Rachel Reeves right now. I mean, what a total failure and embarrassment this government is turning out to be. But I think that there's one thing that we might have in common with Rachel Reeves. I'm sure everyone here has had a boss that's made them cry at work. But the difference is that when we cry, we don't devalue the pound. I mean, as if she hasn't done enough damage. Okay, I'm glad that landed. All right, well, tonight's rally is titled Turning the Tide on a World in Crisis. And we've got a stellar lineup of speakers for you tonight, and I'll come to them shortly. But Marxism Festival this year, I'm sure I don't have to tell people about what an important time that it comes. Starmer's Labour government is in crisis. It is making more U-turns than we can count. And we face the reality that if there was a general election tomorrow, Farage would walk into Downing Street and it would be Keir Starmer handing him the keys. And all of this takes place in the context of 22 months of genocide in Palestine and the horrors of imperialism and the real threat of wider war that we are seeing today. And our rally tonight and the whole of this festival is about how we get out of this crisis of the system and how we fight for a better world. And that's why I'm delighted to announce that we have sold over 3,000 tickets for Marxism Festival so far, making it one of the biggest festivals that we have put on in the last 15 years. Woo! Okay. But I do know that these people haven't bought their tickets to listen to me, so we are going to move on to the real speakers here tonight. And people will have seen that this Labour government has suffered such a massive defeat this week over the benefit cuts. And that is why I'm honoured to invite our first speaker to the stage, who is Ellen Clifford, who is one of the founding members of Disabled People Against the Cuts, one of the key people who has organised the protests that have pushed this government back. So I want a massive round of applause for Ellen.
Hi, can you hear me, yeah? Cool. Okay, yeah, so thank you. Yeah, I wanted to be here today, especially to just be able to thank everyone so much who's shown support and solidarity towards DPAC. Ever since Starmer came into power, really, he launched vicious attacks against us, one after the other, and he hoped to have them all wrapped up nicely and driven through within his first year of power. But we haven't let him do that. But I was so worried about being late tonight because it was important to speak, not just for me, but also because of our much missed comrade, Roger Lewis, who was such a central part of DPAC. not to cry for a minute. And also because I was running really, really late. So I, like many disabled people, I try and plug the gaps in my support left by a broken social care system, broken access to work system, government trying to get us into work when we've got more than 62,000 cases in the Access to Work Disability Employment Support Programme backlog. 33,000 disabled people owe thousands of pounds that they can't afford, having paid their personal assistance and not been getting the money back. These systems are broken, and like I say, I'm one of those who has to try and plug the gaps in my support with my PIP, the benefit Starmer was trying to take away from us. So I did manage to get here. I am wearing a dress, I realised in the cab. My cat has weed on during the day, so don't get too close to me. I didn't think about what I was going to say in my speech, but solidarity and comrades go a long way in times like this, so thank you, Mark Dunk, for the earrings at least. So Starmer, yes, wanted to take personal independence payments away from hundreds upon thousands, in fact, millions of disabled people. The official figures that were given, that the media were happy to report on, said only 800,000 would end up with a cut. But that was on the basis of assumed behaviour changes that may or may not have happened, and which the Office for Budget Responsibility said were highly uncertain, when well over 1.5 million of us would have been impacted. That bill they were trying to get through on the basis of abuse of statistics and downright duplicity. But disabled people, most of us benefit claimants or scroungers, as the government would prefer to call us, most of us with high levels of unmet support need, with our allies, managed to put the government on the back foot this week. With a majority of 174 MPs, they, first of all, narrowly lost the vote on the assisted suicide bill, and anyone who says that that wasn't that was a free choice vote is lying. Starmer was bullying MPs to vote for that. MPs were terrified to even go in rooms where disabled people were to discuss the impacts of the assisted suicide bill on us. So we managed that, first of all. And then this week, by the end of Wednesday, the original bill that Starmer and McSweeney, who are behind it, were trying to rush through, was in absolute tatters, and there were unprecedented scenes in the Commons. Angela Rayner was apparently having individual MPs pulled out while the debate was going on to negotiate with them, to work out what concessions would lead to them not voting against the bill. And then those concessions were being put forward as the debate was going on, and as the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, Liz Kendall, was trying to defend the positions of what was in the bill that they then would concede on. It was an absolute mess, which was brilliant to see. But we don't have time to celebrate now, because we've only got until the 9th of July to take forward the fight. Because what is still left in the bill are horrendous cuts. They might not seem as horrendous because of what we've just managed to get out of the bill. But we still shouldn't be in a country as rich as ours, where the government is trying to take money away from disabled people who cannot work. So what is currently in the bill is a proposal, yes, to raise the standard allowance of universal credit, which we would all agree is a good thing. But they also have in the bill that they want to halve the amount of out-of-work disability benefit payments people get who are found unfit for work. That's going to affect 735,000 disabled people by 2029 to 30. So we're talking about severely disabled people who are not able to work, losing in this year's money £3,000 a year. And we think that's a lot, and it needs to get more attention. The media aren't really reporting on this. Most of it's been focused on PIP. So we've managed to get this far in fighting back, because at the heart of Deepak's organisation And also now we have a very united deaf and disabled people's organisation sector. We are united and coordinated in a way that we've never been before. And at the heart of what all of us are doing is a socialist analysis about how you fight back and how it has to be the grassroots. You don't wait for anyone in power, you don't wait for MPs. I took a legal challenge, but we know that the legal system is not there for us. It's not designed for us. We can use it sometimes. It has to be united grassroots fight back. So that's why we've been so successful, and that's what we're going to use to try and make sure that next Wednesday is another nightmare for the government, and we hope to see as many of you taking part as you possibly can. Please support us, because through this we can possibly bring down Starmer. And so, I just want to finish on a chant, please. Can we, if I say fuck you Starmer, will you say fuck you Starmer back? Fuck you Starmer! Fuck you Starmer! Fuck you Starmer! Fuck you Starmer!
Okay. Oh. Right, thank you so much, Ellen, and we will be with you every step of the way to fight these cuts and Starmer, and fuck you. Okay. So, we know that the fight against benefit cuts is not the only fight against this government. And that's why we are delighted to be joined by someone from one of the most important and longest running strikes that we are seeing in this country today. And a strike which is against the Labour Council, which is pushing through devastating cuts. He's someone who's been on strike for nearly 4 months and is still standing strong. Please give it up for Stephen Bissett from the Birmingham Bin Strike.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. So, for those of you who don't know, my name's Stephen Bissett. I am a Birmingham refuse worker. First of all, I'd like to say, wow, look at all the people, the amazing people in this room. Give a round of applause for yourselves for coming today. Honestly, well done, well done. So, back in January, we were basically told that refuse workers would be losing anywhere between £6,000 to £8,000 a year. Naturally, we was basically outraged by this because this comes after the fact that we had changed start times, and everybody had lost between £1,000 to £2,000 yearly. So to start the year by losing another £8,000, naturally everybody was enraged, especially with the cost of living crisis that we're all facing today. So yeah, we went on strike for 3 days out of the week. Saw that it wasn't really having much impact, so we went on to indefinite, and that's when I'm pretty sure you've seen all the various videos on all the social media platforms, and even the articles that have been portrayed, labeling us as thugs, saying, oh, look, there's 30 tons of waste out in Birmingham streets. There's a couple of ways you can look at it. You can either look at it as they're holding the city ransom, which is not the point. I mean, majority of us, we live in the city that we work in, sort of thing, and we love the city that we live in, sort of thing. So, yeah, we once we went onto indefinite strike in March, we actually saw that we was actually making an impact, and thanks to many different trade unions and our own union, Unite, we were able to find ways to basically have an impact, slow walking in front of the wagons. Which again, it's not anything that any of us wanted to do, but as key workers, which, I mean, let's not forget, back in COVID, doctors, nurses, teachers, bin men, all of us were all basically classed as national heroes. 6 years later, I mean, we're all faced with literally cuts left, right, centre. Fortunately enough for myself, I've been invited to many, many different events. Heard so many stories which are very similar to mine and my colleagues, all the way from doctors, teachers, lecturers, police. I mean, these jobs are already, they're not really glamorous jobs that kids are running and wanting to do. I mean, kids nowadays all want to become TikTokers and YouTubers, and yes, these jobs might pay nice, but what do they do for society? Let's be real. Nothing at all. And I truly feel like if we as the working class accept these pay cuts, then in 50, 60 years' time, how are these services going to look? How's the police force going to look? How are the teachers that are teaching the bright young minds of tomorrow, how is that sector going to look? I mean, it's really, really scary, and all of this falls under a Labour government. Majority of the working class voted them in thinking, you know what, Labour, they're going to be here for the working class, but let's be real, we should have known from when they came for the elderly with the winter fuel payments that they're not Labour at all. They don't stand for the people. I mean, millions and millions of people that have paid into a system that's basically forgot about them at the end of their life. I mean, how disgusting and distasteful is that? I mean, for someone such as myself, I'm still pretty young. I mean, I'm age of 30 years old, so it made me think, well, if they can do this to millions of people who have been paying their whole lives into a system, which, let's be real, don't give a crap about them. I'm going to try to keep it PG. What are they going to do to me? If anything, they'll take even more cuts, and they'll kick me to the curb way before I reach of a certain age. So, I mean, I feel like a lot of people talk a lot of badness about unions. You can either say, yes, they're great, or you can say they're absolutely terrible. But without unions in working sectors, workers would have to accept or decline what the employers bring forward. And again, us employees shouldn't be punished for the mistakes of our employers. So, I mean, I'm not the one who spent £1 billion. I mean, if I spent £1 billion, I promise you now, I would not be here in this room talking to all you lovely people. I'd be on the beach sipping a nice pina colada or something a little stronger. But fortunately, I'm here trying to get solidarity from you all. I just want to say thank you so much for the absolutely continued solidarity up and down the country. It's been absolutely amazing. We have a mega picket on the 25th of June. No, this month. The French in me, 25th of July. On behalf of all the refuse workers, I ask that if you guys can make it, please do, because there's it'll be stretched across 5 locations, so we need as many people as possible. Solidarity to everybody going through fights, through struggles. Make sure that your voices are heard. We are all trans, we are all disabled, and we are all Palestinian. Free! Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Stephen. And let's all make sure that we are supporting the mega picket that's happening on the 25th of July. We're asking everyone that can to go down, support the strikers. Strike Map and We Demand Change are organising hotel rooms, so there's no excuses not to go, and you get a night in Birmingham, which will be great. So yeah, solidarity to Stephen and the strikers. Okay, our next speaker is another trade unionist, but is also someone who is at the sharp end of attacks from Starmer. We know we have seen the most brutal transphobia from the far right, from people like Nigel Farage, but also, shamefully, from this Labour government. But I am delighted and honoured to welcome our next speaker, who is Jenny Black, who is a trade unionist from Unison, who is fighting for trans rights. Give it up for Jenny.
I've only got 6 minutes, people. You're nicking me time.
Okay, go.
What a freaking rowdy bunch you are. It's brilliant. Comrades, to be invited to this festival, this amazing festival of socialism, is a real privilege. And I want to thank the Socialist Workers' Party and the organisers and all of you for the solidarity with the trans, non-binary and gender diverse communities. And obviously, I also want to thank everybody for inviting me, lucky me, to be here tonight. So I was introduced as a trade unionist. I'm in Unison, the biggest public sector union in Europe, allegedly. Anybody here in Unison? Yeah? 2 weeks ago, I got elected onto Unison's NEC. I've got to bet with myself, though, whether I'll still be there in 2 weeks' time. It's really on dodgy ground, I would say. So the battle that my community, the trans, non-binary and gender diverse community, is going through, it's not unique and it's not new. Any black person will tell you about this battle. Any Muslim will tell you about this battle. Any disabled person will. Anybody who is different will tell you about this battle. And that is the battle that we're entrenched in now. And it's a battle against bigotry that the political classes have decided to dive headfirst right into. At times, I really struggle to comprehend why we are where we are as a society. I understand the steps that have been taken to reach this point, but I'm truly baffled by people's willingness to go along on that journey. It just really just doesn't make any sense to me. Just this morning, it was announced a Reform councillor in my borough, North Tyneside, won a by-election and now sits on our council. And their campaign agent, was a branch secretary in Unison about 15 years ago. And I don't understand this journey, and that's what I mean by this. It's bizarre. Just this morning, I've heard Kent Libraries, Reform now run that council. They've removed all the books on trans issues from their libraries, just today. And shame on them. But of course, this political shift brings with it hatred of division and segregation, the pitting of white, able-bodied, heteronormative, cisgender people against the rest of us. And we've got to fight back. We've got to fight back seriously, not piss-farting about, being polite, holding people's feet to the fire, because when you haven't got a fucking fire, it doesn't make any difference, does it, if you hold their feet to it or not? So let's stop this shit and fight back. I could walk down the street 10 years ago and nobody batted an eyelid at me. Nobody gave a shit. They were possibly curious and they would ask me stupid questions. But I faced no hostility. But now I'm a threat. I'm a predator. I'm a risk. I'm an eraser of women. I'm a paedophile. For fuck's sake, I'm just an ordinary human being. Sorry for the language. I can see the damage that people have done, that the politicians have done to my community with their insistence on using trans people as a political football. This Labour government is complicit in this. I've said it before, the right do what they've got to do. Haters are going to hate. But Labour haven't given the working classes anything different. They haven't been the moral compass that we've come to expect of Labour governments of the past. Blue Labour, conservative socialism. What the shit is that all about? Okay? Okay? The political ideology that this government's front bench subscribes to is toxic and it fouls everybody, especially the working classes. Of course, unless you're working class by way of being a toolmaker's son or the grandchild of a gangster, then it's different, then it benefits you. Conservative socialism turns its back on the oppression of minorities in favour of the economic classes. That's all it focuses on. Conservative socialism is not the friend of the Labour movement or the friend of equalities. So by default, it's not my friend. I will challenge and fight it whenever it impacts on our lives. As a trade union and an equality activist, I will also fight it in a trade union. When the values of our members in my union are pushed to one side in order to maintain this toxic relationship with the Labour government, I will fight it and I will stand up and be counted. At Unison's National Delegate Conference a couple of weeks ago, I challenged my union on their failure to stand up for trans, non-binary and gender diverse people, and I challenged them on their failure to challenge the Labour government. And I had a message for them. Well, actually, it was a warning, and I'm going to issue the same warning to Keir Starmer and the Labour government. I had sex reassignment surgery a number of years ago, but if you think I haven't got the balls for this fight, you are deeply mistaken. Thank you, comrades. Have a great festival.
Thank you, Jenny. And we know that we have to stand united against the division and the transphobia that is being pushed. And we know it is simple that trans women are women, trans men are men, and non-binary people exist and should be respected. And we know that transphobia is not the only issue in which they're trying to divide us. We have seen an absolutely racist onslaught from Farage in Britain to his hero Trump in the US. And with that, I'm really honoured to invite our next speaker, who has flown all the way from LA to be here tonight. Someone who has come from the inspiring uprising that we have seen, in which people have taken to the streets of LA to resist the racist deportations and to stop Trump in his tracks. So please welcome a migrant rights organizer for over 20 years in LA, a member of Marx 21, the Socialist Workers' Party sister organization, Victor Fernandez.
I'll try to keep a whole uprising to 6 minutes. So here in the US, not here, sorry. Look, I just landed like 4 hours ago, 2 hours of sleep. I'll be a little weird. We are seeing in the US the full realization of the neoliberal nightmare, actually. It's their dream, it's our nightmare. And what we're seeing is Republicans on one side going full steam ahead, and Democrats on the other side doing absolutely nothing about it. Only symbolic gestures. I mean, Biden ran on, I am not changing anything. Like, Democrats are at the point right now where they don't even lie to us, right? Obama lied to us. He told us he was going to do all these things, and then he did the complete opposite. And so we knew these raids were going to come. In fact, we were organizing what a rapid response network. So if there's a raid or if there's something, like we would know where it would happen, and people would call in, let us know, and then we could bring in protesters, people, organizations, and all of that. Actually, we've been doing this for 20 years. So if there's one lesson that you should learn, right, that I came 10 hours on a flight, is that it doesn't matter. Shit doesn't have to hit the fan. You have to organize right here and now to prepare for the worst, right? This is what we're doing here. When there's 5 people in a room, that's when you organize, right? Because yes, it's great when there's 100 people want to get organized, but that organization has to be there. And it was when the raids first hit in LA. The reason this is happening is this big, beautiful bill that Trump is trying to pass. Basically, tax cuts to the wealthy, cuts to Medicare. There was a legislator who actually was in a town hall, was confronted that people are going to die because of this. And her response was, everybody's going to die, right? And then the next day goes on social media and does a fake apology at a cemetery, right? This is the level of cruelty that they are trying to push. And so his big, beautiful bill was having problems. Like people realizing people voted it without it being read. And so there was a lot of pushback against that. So what happens? He targets LA, and on June 6th, literally they targeted an immigrant neighborhood, a place where immigrants both work and shop, in a military-style raid with like one of those little MRAPs, which are basically like a military-style police vehicle, and went in and got people. But the Rapid Response Network, it worked. Immediately, there were 200 people there. The head of the SEIU, the California Service Employees International Union, was there and was arrested trying to stop the ICE raids. And then after that, there was an immediate protest called for the federal building where people go, where they take the people they detain, and 2,000 people showed up within like 2 hours. And they might have laid siege to the building. I don't know. I was there, maybe it happened. But for the next 2 weeks, every single night there was a massive protest there. No matter what, there was at least 1,000 people there. On a Saturday, a week afterwards, there were 10,000 people. And then even with the huge LAPD repression, which they love to repress our protests, they love to try to shut us down. By the way, it's a Democratic mayor who's doing this. People were still going out there. They were holding their ground. They were shutting down the freeway, which is great, stopping traffic. And that was going on for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, rapid response networks are popping up all over the city. Well, there were 2 organizations that were mainly doing it now. I'm following like 50 of them. I have a Signal thread where I get daily 100 texts from just my community of people going around, following ICE, confronting them wherever they go. There's now a system where we go and patrol Home Depots, which is where they're attacking. And everybody I meet is new to activism, is new to organizing. And so we can't stop raids. Sometimes we do, but we are giving them hell. We are stopping them. We are making sure they don't take a bunch of people. We're doing everything we can. And then finally, this is the fun one. And I know Thomas went to one of these when he came to visit. People found out where they were staying in the hotels. And the first one happened in Pasadena, where they found out both the workers organized and people outside to get ICE kicked out, right? And so they can't sleep. And people go there blaring horns, blasting everything. The thing about the Rapid Response Network, yes, it's organized, but it's organized by a group of people. But people just show up from their community. When they came to Paramount, just somebody came and was on Instagram. He's like, I'm a veteran, and he just like, I know what you guys are doing. I'm going to fight for my community. Oh, okay, 1 more minute. Okay. Fight for my community, and people just show up, and it can blow up to like 200-300 people confronting these federal officers and running them out of town. It's happened in Bell. It's happened everywhere. So there's a lot of people getting involved, a lot of people angry, but it's not just going to be anger, right? There needs to be organization. We need to formalize. We need to build back the left, especially the immigrant rights left, because we know the raids are going to keep on coming. We know that people are going to have to be defending their community, because the reality is we are the alternative. It's not the Democrats, it's not the Republicans, it's people organizing in the ground and fighting back. And we've done it before. Trump picked the wrong city. We have a history of rioting. We have a history of fighting back. We have a history of organizing massive strikes. We've shut down that country before, and we have to organize to shut it down again. And if you want to learn the lesson from that, is organize, be involved. You're the alternative here, solidarity forever, and no one is illegal on stolen land.
Thank you so much, Victor. I hope you get some more sleep after this, but that was brilliant on 2 hours. And what an inspiration those protests are. But let's make that resistance a reality in Britain too. Because we know that we have a fight against repression on our hands here as well. because we have Starmer launching the most appalling crackdown and silencing on those speaking out for Palestine and against the genocide. And whether that be Kneecap or Bob Villain or the organisers of the Palestine marches or now Palestine Action, we are seeing Starmer cracking down on all of them. But we are truly honoured to be joined by someone tonight, by Frank McGuinness, who is a barrister and a supporter of Palestine Action. But before I bring Frank up here, I just want to say that when Frank finishes, we're going to hand round some signs and we're going to take a solidarity picture for Palestine Action. But please do give a massive round of applause for Frank.
Comrades, thank you so much. It's great to be here. My name's Frank McGuinness. I'm a communist. I originally come from the occupied north of Ireland in South Armagh, where they build the bombs, if you remember them. I now practice at the bar of England and Wales, have done for about 10 years. I'm here to talk to you about three things, but the main thing I'm here to suggest is that we need to urgently and collectively escalate for Palestine, for the Palestinians. The three things that I'm going to talk to you about. First of all, I'm going to talk to you about the crisis in which Zionism finds itself because it is committing the mass murder of Palestinians because it views them as a racial threat. Secondly, I'm going to talk to you very briefly about the history of so-called counter-terrorism powers and the way that they were pioneered in my homeland to try and suppress the Irish struggle against British imperialism. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about Palestine Action, what we can do to escalate, to show solidarity with Palestine Action as a mechanism for showing solidarity with the people of Palestine as they face genocide. So on the first of those, Zionism is dying. It is in a serious crisis. It looks like it is not long for the world, but that doesn't mean that we can be complacent. We must ensure that we kick it to death. It must not be allowed to survive this crisis. Why do I say it's in crisis? Because even under the liberal regime of international law, even those institutions are having to admit that is an explicitly racist and colonial ideology. The ICJ has handed down a number of judgments and provisional opinions confirming that it's apartheid, which means that it's racial domination of Palestinians. We know what we do with apartheid regimes. We fight them until they are defeated. The ICC has handed down arrest warrants. That means that if the sitting Prime Minister of Britain's so-called little loyal Jewish Ulster, Benjamin Netanyahu, if he comes here, he will be arrested. And the British government has been forced by the sheer weight of disgust at the fascist ideology of Zionism to hand down sanctions of sitting Israeli ministers, right? Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir are now sanctioned by their closest allies. Bezalel Smotrich is a fascist. How do we know he's a fascist? He tells us that he's a fascist. Zionism is a fascist ideology. It's in crisis, but it's for us to make sure that it's a terminal crisis. We do that by escalating, escalating, escalating. Secondly, terrorism powers were pioneered against the Irish Republican struggle against the British Empire, okay? The precursor to the Terrorism Act 2000 that's being used to attack Kneecap, it's being used to attack various Palestinian groups, and it's now being used to attack Palestine Action. That was pioneered for use against Irish people who didn't want to be dominated by a colonial empire, right? So because Irish people were being dominated in that way, we developed extremely sophisticated national liberation struggle with extremely sophisticated organizations that brought the fight to the British, all right? Obviously, in 1969, Catholics were being burned out of our homes by loyalist mobs backed by the British state. It was in those circumstances that the Provisional IRA emerged, and it was in those circumstances that the British Empire that colonized my homeland tried to invent these powers to say it's illegal to defend your communities by being a member of these community defense organizations. That's where the powers come from, and then Blair comes to power in 97, 98 he passes his Human Rights Act, 2000 he passes his Terrorism Act. So he takes a power that's designed to criminalize the Irish Republican struggle, and he tries to apply it internationally, and it's at that moment that the military wing of Hamas is added to the list, and then 20 years later, Priti Patel adds the political wing. I am instructed to bring an application by that organization under Section 4 of the Terrorism Act, calling for them to no longer be treated as terrorists. If people are serious about peace, you need to speak to people who win elections. Hamas won the only election. I'm here to suggest that the SWP and all socialists need to do more to support that application. You're not allowed to support the organization because that's a crime, but you can support this application. I encourage you to be more vocal in doing it. The final thing is to talk about Palestine Action. Palestine Action are being prescribed because they're winning. Their tactic of direct action against Elbit Systems UK Limited is working, and that is why the British state is taking this astonishing step to try and prescribe them. There is, of course, a difference between groups like Hamas and the IRA on the one hand, and Palestine Action. Palestine Action don't engage in any violence against people. They don't use guns. They engaged in direct action against property. The reason that Starmer is doing this is because they are losing. Their favorite ethno-state is collapsing, and so they're having to violently suppress those who pursue effective tactics against them. The House of Commons shamefully yesterday voted by some astonishing margin to criminalize this group. This is the onset of fascism, okay? I'm not going to overstate it. Starmer's government is not yet fascist, but he is laying the groundwork for fascism. Palestine Action today, it will be trade unions he doesn't like tomorrow. This is an extreme crisis. We need to escalate. If there's an interim relief hearing on Friday, right? So the High Court does have the power to suspend the effect of the attempts to ban. Don't act as if it's already happened. It hasn't happened yet. Keep escalating. But if it does happen, in my opinion, what needs to happen is direct action groups, copycat direct action groups need to spring up everywhere. We mustn't let the British Empire that is participating in this genocide push us around. They do not have the power to stop us. They know they don't, and that's why they're trying to ban us. I'm fond of saying, comrades, people talk about dying on the hill. We're not being asked to die on the hill. It's Palestinians who are dying on the hill. The hill is Palestine. It's not our hill to abandon. Live on the hill. Stay in solidarity with Palestine Action. Stay in solidarity with the people of Palestine. Chuck Yarla.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Frank, and we are all Palestine Action. And there is a really important demonstration tomorrow outside the Royal Courts of Justice to say that we're going to stand in solidarity with Palestine Action. We are going to send a special delegation from Marxism Festival to be there at that demo that needs to be as big as possible. And solidarity to all those who are threatened by the state over their solidarity with Palestine. And those people include Kwabena Devenish. Kwabena, who is here somewhere, is an anti-racist. She's a fearless fighter for Palestine, and she's a member of the Socialist Workers' Party who is being falsely charged with terrorism. We're asking everyone... Shame. And we're asking everyone here to support her campaign, to sign the statement, to donate and to join us outside the court, to stand with Kwabena, to stand with Palestine on the 18th of August. Have we done it? Okay. So now we're going to have a quick announcement from Janet Maiden. Janet is a nurse at UCLH and a member of the Socialist Workers' Party.
Yeah, hi comrades. It's Janet here, and I really want to rave about the political festival of Marxism 2025 It is, in fact, my 40th Marxism, and it continues to be a real highlight. I first attended as a student nurse in 1985, and by 1988, I was an SWP member, leading nurses out on strike at the Royal Free, and I've been a revolutionary activist in my workplace and locality ever since. And, you know, we live in a period of a multi-crisis, and it's a crisis for them, but they think we should pay. And we have the most right-wing Labour Prime Minister who says he's increasing the defence spending by £6 billion to 60 billion, and he wants this country to be war-ready. Well, the ideas that we have to discuss at Marxism and the actions we have to take have never been more urgent, and we need a system change to save the planet and the future of mankind. And comrades, we've heard from many brilliant speakers, and I'm sure everybody in this rally has been involved in the Palestine movement, which has been absolutely fantastic. I'm also assuming that many people here today stand with Palestine Action and want to see the prescribing stopped. We stand with NECAP and we applaud their actions on Palestine. And we stand with Bob Villan and his fantastic stance at Glastonbury. But comrades, let me finish because I'm going to be shot up by our very strict chair very soon. It is because of our principled stand on Palestine that we've also been banned. We've been banned from the universities and the venues that's hosted Marxism. And Marxism never makes a profit. We organise it because it provides a unique service for the left. We have trade unionist campaigners, revolutionaries and non-revolutionaries, SWP and others, who attend a most fantastic event. And I think we need to make it possible that we sustain Marxism, and we need to commit to ensuring that I can go to another 40 Marxisms, and therefore we can't break the bank with this Marxism. This festival is much, much more expensive. Many comrades have travelled from outside of London, but also outside of the UK and across the pond. And I heard from another comrade that it's costing him on average about £500 just to attend that. Now, I'm not going to not ask him for money. I am going to ask him for money and others, but I do think I'm going to do something I saw in the 1980s by the militant. I think comrades who live in London, who may have a tiny piggy bank to raid or not, who are paid, should be looking to donate at least their train fare to Paris or Manchester or Newcastle. And I also think that we should come with some notes from our cash points to other meetings, because we'll be asked more than once, and we really want to support this. And I just want to say, if we're serious about being revolutionaries and serious about changing the world, you need to put theory into practice. Solidarity is financial support, so give your train fares in your hundreds and your millions. Let's support this brilliant event.
Okay, thank you so much, Janet. We need to put our theory into practice and our hands into our pockets. But while the collection is going round, I'm going to have a few announcements. We hope you have had a brilliant first day at Marxism, or a big welcome if this is your first session. But we have 3 more days of meetings, of debates, of brilliant speakers and culture, so don't miss out and join us for the rest of the festival. And this festival is also hosted by the Socialist Workers' Party. If you want to find out more or join us, please speak to the membership team who are at the back of the room and by the door, and we'll talk to you on your way out. And we're delighted, like every year at Marxism, that we are partnered with Bookmarks Bookshop. Now, Bookmarks are the biggest and the best socialist bookshop in Britain, and they will be with us all weekend. So please do buy your books and give your money to a brilliant bookshop and socialist bookshop like Bookmarks, and not people like Jeff Bezos at Amazon. And finally, after this rally is over, please do stick around. The bar will be open late, and we will be joined by the legendary DJ from Notting Hill Carnival, Smokey Joe. Okay, so our penultimate speaker... Okay. Well, our penultimate speaker is someone that needs no introduction. He is a fierce fighter against apartheid. He's a loyal friend of the Palestinians. He has exposed the arms deals and the corruption at the heart of the Israeli state. And a year ago this Saturday, he scored 18% of the vote against Keir Starmer in Holborn and St Pancras. Please give it up for Andrew Feinstein.
Hello. It's great to be here, and I'm sorry that I was late. There have been two things going on, one of which you're going to hear about in a bit. The first of which was that I've spent most of the last week preparing a very long expert statement for the court hearing tomorrow morning. We will see whether the judiciary, unlike in the decision about the export of weapons to Israel, we will see tomorrow whether the judiciary is prepared to defend our most basic civil rights in this country. And we've got to hope that for once they come through on the side of justice. You spoke a little bit earlier, and I'm sorry I missed the first couple of speakers, about my local MP, Keir Starmer. On Saturday, before they come to the festival, his own constituents are going to be marching against him. The only sadness is Keir Starmer won't stand again because he knows that the community of Camden, a vibrant, diverse, progressive community, will kick him so far out of Camden that we'll never fucking see him again. You know, I used to think the British Prime Minister I hated most was Margaret Thatcher. And even though Margaret Thatcher called Mandela, my boss, called him a terrorist, and privately suggested to the apartheid South African state that they have him killed in jail because it was too dangerous to keep him alive. Keir Starmer, who claims that Mandela is his political inspiration, however, is doing what Margaret Thatcher never dared do. Because Thatcher never prescribed the ANC as a terrorist organization. She never prescribed the anti-apartheid movement or the Defense and Aid Fund that was so crucial in bringing about an end to apartheid as terrorist organizations. But Keir Starmer has decided that those of us who are prepared to take action to stop a genocide, who are prepared to take action to liberate Palestine, he claims that we are the terrorists. Well, the reality is that we know who the real terrorists are. The real terrorists start with my MP, Keir Starmer, who is committing genocide in Gaza. It's extraordinary to think that Nelson Mandela would not be welcome in this charlatan's Labour Party because of his views on Palestine, because of his views about the freedom of speech, freedom of political thought, and freedom of political action. But that is where we are. But we shouldn't lose hope, for reasons that a number of the speakers have mentioned. What is happening with the strikers in Birmingham? What is happening in the resilience of the Palestinian people, who are the real heroes of our day? And the resistance that is taking place in the belly of the empire, the United States of America. And why should we have hope? Because just like apartheid South Africa did, Israel is destroying itself. The United States is destroying its own economy thanks to the genius policy of its 7 times bankrupted president. And Britain, the poodle of the imperial United States, people here are simply abandoning the political choices we have been offered. But just a few moments ago, a young Muslim woman who somehow became a member of parliament in Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party before Keir Starmer took over, has announced, today, after 14 years, I'm resigning from the Labour Party. Zara Sultana continues to say, Jeremy Corbyn and I will, as interim leaders until a democratic launch Congress, co-lead the founding of a new political party. Okay? They will do so with other independent MPs, with campaigners and activists like us across the country. Because this will not be a movement of the elite. This will not be a movement of careerists who want a place in Parliament. This will be a movement of us, the people. And never, never has it been so desperately needed. So let me leave you with the words of Nelson Mandela, who after 27 years in an apartheid prison was asked, how did you retain hope? How did you believe that you would still overcome what was seen as an all-powerful military, a brutal, murderous apartheid state that had the support of the West? He said, because I had faith in the people of South Africa. I had faith in the people of the world. And because it's only impossible until it's done.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andrew, and coming with his breaking news as well. Thanks. What an exciting announcement. Okay, now we are going to our final speaker, our last but no means least speaker, which is Lewis Nielsen, who is part of the organising team for this Marxism Festival and the National Secretary of the Socialist Workers' Party. Please give it up for Lewis.
Well, look, I want to thank everyone on the stage tonight. Listening to each of their speeches, you get a feeling that we are at a crossroads. Every fight, every struggle they've talked about tonight is at a critical moment. It feels like the crisis in society is coming to a head. And if you want one of the biggest illustrations about that, you can look at the Labour government, you can look at what is happening in Europe, but if you want a sign of the crisis, look at Glastonbury. And I'm not talking about Rod Stewart's set. If you want a sign of the crisis, look at 40,000 people chanting "fuck Keir Starmer" at the kneecap set. Look at the feeling of support for Palestine. And look at the response to Bob Villan. When I see what Bob Villan said, and then I think about what the IDF has done over the last 22 months, conducting a genocide, starving Palestinians, and this week dropping a target bomb on a children's birthday party in Gaza, when I hear what Bob Villan said, I think if that force was destroyed, the world would be a more peaceful place. And that's the truth of it. And then I look at the people watching Kneecap in the crowd and on TV, and a friend turned to me and said, "You learn more from an hour set from Kneecap about genocide, Palestine, one state, the British Empire. You learn more from them than 22 months of mainstream media coverage." That's the truth of it. And it is to the eternal shame of this government, it's to the eternal shame of every Labour MP yesterday who voted on that prescription, that not only are they justifying the genocide, not only have they stood loyally by, not only have they allowed arms to still be sold, but they have stronger words and stronger measures for Palestine action than they do for the people conducting the genocide. We will never forget those MPs who have stood on the side of the Israeli state. But the truth is this, we shouldn't be surprised. Saturday marks 1 year of this government. And what we've learned is that at every turn, this Labour Party stands on the side of power against those fighting back. When you look at the benefit cut that Ellen talked about, they stand on the side of the super rich when they cut the benefits of disabled people. When it comes to climate change, they're on the side of the energy companies rather than those of us fighting for a greener planet. And when you look at Starmer's speeches and what his cabinet say about migrants, they stand on the side of racists, not the anti-racists. And to be honest, this is going to be one of his biggest crimes. Keir Starmer is handing the keys to number 10 to Nigel Farage. With the language he uses, with the attacks on working class people, he is taking us down the road of Europe. And when you look around Europe, it can look a dark place. In France, the fascist RN are likely to win the next election. In Italy, Giorgia Meloni, who comes from the political tradition of Mussolini, is in government. And look at Germany, a place where the horrors of the Holocaust took place. You now have a party complete with Holocaust deniers, neo-Nazis, Islamophobes, anti-Semites, a fascist party on 22% of the poll. That's the vision Nigel Farage has for Britain. A new threat, 30% reformer on, hundreds of councillors. And it's right when people call him out as a millionaire, as a private schoolboy, as someone whose economic policy is Thatcherism on steroids. But let's also call him out for the racist he is. Let's call out his racism. When you have a Reform MP getting up in Parliament saying she wants to ban what Muslim women wear, that's racism. When you have them blaming migrants and refugees for the problems in society, that's racism. And when you have them every day banging on about the small boats, that's racism. We have to stand tall and we have to take it on. You don't fight that racism by ignoring it. You don't fight it by hoping it goes away. You stand up, you stand united, and you confront it. And when I say that politics is at a crossroads, it's true of Britain, but the much bigger picture is one of a deeper crisis. The genocide in Gaza, but we now face the threat of war on Iran, the climate catastrophe which gets worse,
And above all, through all of that, the long-term economic depression and malaise. And what this festival is about, it's about saying that this is the fight of our lives. And this festival, this weekend, is about how we build more resistance. And that's why I'm delighted we've started tonight with a panel of fighters. When you hear Ellen showing that disabled people aren't victims, they aren't vulnerable, they are fighting back against this government and pushing it back. The protesters in LA, those fighting for trans rights, Palestine action, we need more of that kind of resistance. We have to celebrate that resistance, but we have to think about what kind of politics can win. And it's obvious to millions of people that mainstream politics is broken. The rage that people feel about Gaza, the fury about poverty and inequality, the hatred of the far right and the racists, none of that is on display in mainstream politics. And therefore, I'm delighted to hear what Andrew has said, that there will be a socialist challenge to give Keir Starmer a kicking at the next election. We welcome that challenge. We welcome that challenge. But the test of it will be, is it prepared to challenge the system, or will there be pressure to assimilate into it? Because all the crises we've heard tonight, they didn't fall from the sky. Why do we live in a world where a genocide can be live streamed and no one does anything about it? Why do we live in a world where refugees are left to drown? Why do we live in a world where the planet burns, where BP make record profits? And why do we live in a world where the poorest people are made to pay for the crisis in our society? It's because we live in a world where profit comes before people and is prioritised at every turn. And therefore, what this festival is about, what this weekend is about, it's about saying that if we're going to fight, we need to recognise that our true power doesn't lie in the corridors of Westminster. It doesn't lie in the parties that are top down from above. Our true power lies in the resistance in Gaza, of the solidarity movement across the world, the uprising in LA, the strikes like Birmingham. If we're going to win the victory we all need, we're talking about revolutionary change from below. And therefore, what we're saying is that, look, I've stood on this stage many times over the last few years. Well, not this stage, because we're in a nightclub. But I've stood on a Marxism stage. I've stood on a stage at Marxism and said that this is the fight of our lives. In 2025, it feels much sharper than it ever has. And what we need to channel the resistance for Palestine, the fight against racism, the struggle of ordinary people. We need to channel that into a bigger fight against the system. All of that requires politics. It requires organisation, but it also requires leadership. Everyone in this room can be a leader. If there's anyone in the room who's not a member of the Socialist Workers' Party, let's make a pledge tonight that when we look back in a few years' time and we look at the crisis of society coming to a head, let's make a pledge that however small, whatever the challenges, whatever the difficulties, we built an organisation which was up to the task of building resistance, of standing together, of standing tall and fighting to change the world. That's the challenge for all of us. Everyone in this room can be a leader. We need a new leadership to fight to change the world.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to everyone here. I now get to make my own special announcement. Breaking news. DPAC have just announced that there is going to be another protest against the final reading of the Disability Benefit Cuts Bill on Wednesday the 9th of July from 4 p.m. So let's make that as big as possible. Okay, I want to thank everyone for being here. Please do get involved. Speak to the people about the Socialist Workers' Party and stay, because we have the bar and we need to hit our limits. So please do stay and listen to Smokey Joe. Thank you.
Yes, who's back on the news? It's your favourite Republican hoods. It's your fella with the nigger shoes. 2 chains, 2 birds, and we know what's good. Guess who's back to abuse every solvent that I choose?